Hi, I'm Lara Bennett, and you're listening to Highway Butterfly, The Stories of Neal Casal. Neal was a gifted singer, songwriter, musician, and friend to many. He released 14 albums as a solo artist and collaborated on countless projects with other musicians. After his passing in 2019, his friends and family created the Neal Casal Music Foundation to provide instruments and music lessons to students in New York and New Jersey, and to support organizations that offer musicians mental health care. One of the featured projects of the newly formed foundation is the tribute album, Highway Butterfly, The Songs of Neal Casal, a sprawling 41-song collection bringing together a galaxy of rock and roots luminaries. We've asked the contributing musicians to share their memories of Neal and their stories of making the record. Highway Butterfly, The Songs of Neal Casal is out on November 12th. Pre-order the album and learn more about the Neal Casal Music Foundation at nealcasalmusicfoundation.org.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Highway Butterfly podcast. I'm your guest host, Dave Schools. I'm going to bring in a very special friend for a number of reasons in a second, but I just wanted to give you a little background about my relationship with Neal Casal and this project. I first met Neal when we put the band Hardworking Americans together, and I'm not going to even say the year because it just tells me how quickly time goes by. But we became instant friends, and of course we spent a lot of time on the bus, a lot of time in the studio, a lot of time listening to music that we loved, and it was just instant. We emptied our wallets at many independent record stores around the country and had a great time doing so. And it was a shock when Neal took his own life, but not too soon thereafter, we decided, Gary Waldman, his longtime manager and friend, that we would try to make a tribute record to honor Neal's legacy and put some of his music out into the world. There was a lot of it. So we got together with Grammy-winning Jim Scott, a longtime friend of mine, and convened a lot of incredible players at Jim's studio in Southern California called Pliers. And we've got a 41-track, 5 LP, 3 CD box set coming at you November 12th. And that's that. So being your guest host, bear with me. I'd like to bring a very special friend in, someone who knew Neal, and someone who got us started. This is the first artist to record the first track for the Highway Butterfly record, Billy Strings. How you doing, Billy?
Dave, how are you, man?
I'm good. I'm starting out the Highway Butterfly session. You were the first artist we recorded, and so you were one of maybe 14 songs we got in the can at Pliers before the whole world shut down.
Right.
But the great thing was that you were the first, and it was such a successful day. How did you go about picking the song "All the Luck in the World"?
That one has always sort of just spoke to me in a kind of beautifully depressing, melancholy sort of way.
Yeah, that's something about Neal. There's a lot of melancholy, but it's the beautiful kind of melancholy.
It is. There's something beautiful about, I think, an artist, even though it's painful, even though, like, I think an artist is like willing to just play the music no matter what's going on with them or something, like no matter how hard it is, the music's always there or something like that. Like, just the old rocker who's been on stage for, like Billy Kreutzmann or something, yeah. You got that glazed over look in your eyes, you know what I mean? Like, it was like, dang, this guy's been through some shit and seen some stuff, but when you're up there playing or whatever, like, it kind of goes away, and
It's like
that is just a beautiful melancholy in itself,
Well, that's right. I've always found that, like, a heartbreak situation where it's all I can think about, despite all the distractions of a young touring life, on a tour bus, and it's like I could never get past that. Oh, my heart's broken. I feel melancholy and sad, but those couple of hours on stage, it
Mhm.
is like it's still there, but it hurts a lot less. It's almost like you can transmute it somehow, and let the music do its thing. It heals the heart and it unites people. Um, so let's take a pause for a second and watch a little clip of All the Luck in the World, and we'll be right back afterwards.
You see a choice in front of you, and though it's hard to make, you feel you will come through. You feel how everyone has changed, but they know who you are, and they're watching what you do. And they say that they wish you all the luck in the world. And they say that they'll miss you when you're gone.
So that was All the Luck in the World, and it's amazing. Let's talk a little bit about how you met Neal. Were you aware of that song before you met him, or did it go the other way? You met him and then you started digging in.
Yeah, it went that way. I met him and started digging in. You know, the first thing that I really heard from Neal was Circles Around the Sun. And that was back around the time of, the Fairly Well Grateful Dead 50th, shows. And, I think my girlfriend was, doing yoga or cleaning the house or something, and she was listening to that Circles Around the Sun album, and I'm like, what are you listening to? This is pretty cool, because she was listening to it for like a day or two, and I kind of caught on. It's like, what is this? Oh, it's Circles Around the Sun. And then I kind of put two and two together, that it was the same cat that I saw with you guys in Hardworking Americans and stuff, in which I loved that band, and I had quite an experience seeing you guys in a packed like middle of Broadway, downtown Nashville, and
Oh, the street gig. Yeah.
yes, dude, that was, and yeah, that was, man, a few years ago. It was kind of when I don't know, it wasn't long after I had moved to Nashville, and I was young and just checking out the city, and holy smokes, there's going to be a great concert down there. And I already knew the guys from Leftover Salmon and stuff, as well as Tim O'Brien and Brian Sutton, and those guys played before Leftover Salmon. So, I really wanted to go down there to see Brian Sutton play guitar. And then it was like, okay, then Leftover Salmon's playing, and then Hardworking Americans. And I had these little gel tabs that somebody gave me, and my girlfriend and I said, hey, screw it, let's eat these. So we ate one, and we went down there in a little Uber ride. And by the time we got down there, it was very different. And we walked into Ernest Tubbs' record shop and to seek refuge from the, tourists. And so we went in there, and I started looking at some records, and I was looking at this beautiful record, and I realized the ceiling fan up above was like making the whole room swirl. So I was like, we got to get out here. And that's when the music kind of started. And then the music was great. Leftover Salmon set was chaotic and just crazy as ever. But you guys came on, and I was very inspired and, in a really good headspace there to see that concert. And Neal's playing was just kind of soaring through those buildings there, and the effects and stuff that he was doing, and just the way that he blended into that band, and it was almost like he wasn't there in a way. He was so good that it never poked out or nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It was like he just knew how to be in there without poking out here and there, and he just added such an amazing flavor to it. And man, that set was just killer, dude. I was really blown away.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, That's the thing about Neal's playing, was it didn't poke out, except for when he wanted it to. But if something happened, like he broke a string and actually had to drop out in the middle of a song, which he never did, but if he wasn't playing, boy, did it poke out. That's what poked out, is when Neal wasn't there.
Right.
Because he was such a guide stone of time and taste, and tone, really. The tone and the sort of, just unhurried, patient delivery.
I think that's what Neal had a lot of too. Maybe something that I think I lack a little bit, which is kind of a tasteful restraint.
Yeah, I right there with you, and I'm a bass player, so that's a no. But we are who we are, Billy.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, man. I like to play stuff with teeth and that kind of leans forward. That's just my style. But I love players like that. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I really like to listen to. That.
So, yeah, it's you were talking about Cats and hearing them, and the whole purpose of that project was to simply be set break music for those Fare Thee Well concerts. And so I remember Neal talking about them. He was so enthusiastic because it was more of an experiment. It allowed him to kind of come at making music from a way different angle, where the whole thing was just to sort of sit in the groove in an unhurried way and get out of your own way,
Right.
and sort of let the group mind take effect and take the music for a journey, which of course takes the listener for a journey. What I don't think anyone could have seen coming was the phenomenal response to that set break and walk-in music. People, deadheads, hundreds of thousands of them, were like, what the heck was that? So it got released. I mean, and that's sort of an amazing thing. So what was it like for you at Pliers to have Cats as your backing band, basically?
Man, those guys are badass, dude. You know what I mean? And I don't get to play with like a band, with drums and keys and stuff a lot, So yeah, playing with those guys is awesome, man. It felt really easy, easy to play.
Did you tell us a little bit about the experience that day? What happened when you arrived at the studio? What was it like to meet Jim Scott? And had you met those guys before, the Cats guys?
I had been around them a few times, I think maybe backstage and stuff, but maybe even backstage at Panic at the Ryman, I think, or something. I don't know if some of those Cats were there. Maybe that wasn't that time, but I remember
maybe a festival like Lock-In or something like that.
I think Todd was around, and the thing was, I was just like a kid that, it's not that I didn't know anybody or people didn't know me. I just was kind of standing there in the corner and didn't really have much to say. But that's, where I think I first ran into those guys in person. Oh, and then there was the festival that we all kind of played on the same thing until 4 a.m, Aiken, that's where me and Neal did first kind of sort of link up for the first time and get chatting and stuff about jamming together and stuff. And he took some beautiful photographs that night that I cherish,
Fantastic photographer, fly on the wall. Never even see it happening until you see the photo and you're like, how did you get that shot?
Yeah.
So did you guys ever get to play together, you and Neal?
Yeah, that night we actually jammed a fair amount. Like I said, it was a late night jam till about 4 a.m, and he came up and played with us for a bit. And but we were talking about getting together more, coming out there to California and doing some stuff with kind of me as a guest with Circles Around the Sun or something like that.
That's exactly right. That was the last project that Neal and I were talking about,
Yeah.
because I could never get him to get into the studio with his own songs. I had about 14 demos he had sent me sitting on the desktop of my laptop. And I every so often just call him and go, hey, what's going on? You know, let's maybe do some recording. And he had suggested that I work on the other side of the glass for Billy Strings and Cats, this conceptual record. And I know they had done the Russo kind of guest Cats, and I liked that idea. I think, to me, that takes the pressure off of everybody.
Well, you know, to me, when I walked into Players that day and met Jim, and you know, Cats showed up, and you know, some of those dudes were already there, and some guys were coming in from like camping down by the river and whatever. And I'm like, man, these guys are cool, man. And you know, it made me feel like happy because, well, here we are. You know, we're doing it. We're doing what me and Neal had talked about. You know, even though he's not here with us, but in a way, you know, he was. It's his song we were doing and stuff, and you know, everything like that. So that's what it felt. It felt like that. It felt right. It felt like, well, me and Neal were talking about me coming out to California to do some shit in the studio. So like, now that I'm in California, like with his band and you and out, you know, out there, it just felt, well, shit, this is what he wanted, or this is what we were talking about anyway. So
Yeah, I picked up on that right away. I mean, and you know, I call Jim's place the happiest place on earth, because you know, you walk into that room and the first thing you see is the scale of the place.
Yeah, it's giant.
And then you see all the weird tapestries hanging on the walls, and then you see your name in lights over the Dolly Parton pinball machine.
Major vibes. Yeah. It was definitely just when I walked in there, I had to like walk around for a bit, you know, like, hey, good to meet you. I'm going to need about 5-10 minutes to just walk around and gaze before I can actually have a conversation here, because, you know, otherwise I'm just going to be looking and say, yeah, that's cool. But what's this thing? You know?
Yeah. I mean, I discovered instruments I didn't even know exist. And then after discovering that they do exist, they're plugged in and ready to record.
Well, that's the other thing. Everything's ready to roll.
Yeah.
Something. I was walking by and I just like, you know, put one finger on like a keyboard or something, and it was like, oh shit, this thing's actually on, you know. And then all the you know, electronic percussion and everything's on. It's like, dude, we can play for hours in here.
It's a fun idea factory, and what it does is it just puts everybody at ease, and it fosters the hang, because you know, it can be pretty awkward walking into a studio setting. A lot of times they're super clinical, you know, a little too clean and antiseptic for people like us, and then, you know, there's like never really a sort of centralized place. There might be some hang lounge, you know, off in a dark corner somewhere, but it's all business. Jim's is just like, oh, look, a bunch of 8-tracks. Let's pop this Boston 8-track in and have a dance party and get to know each other, and maybe have a little lunch, and then maybe we'll talk about the arrangement of the song.
Yeah.
And it's like, after that, you go in and record it, and it's pretty darn easy. It sounds great.
Yeah, that's what it felt like too. It was pretty laid back, and loved working on that with you, man. It was really a beautiful experience, and you know, I think it turned out beautifully. I do love that recording, you know.
It's fantastic, and you know what it did, it showed us that our idea worked, you know, at least for you, but having it be the first attempt, you know, it's kind of like the pitcher throws the first pitch and you hit it out of the park. You know, the track is beautiful. Your performance is devastatingly beautiful. The guitar and the vocal and just the whole vibe. You really captured that melancholy beauty that you mentioned earlier that is inherent in Neal's songs. And so for us, you know, it was the start of this journey. But we had this like win in our pocket of where this really, well, you know, we got a song tracked 90% of the way in one day, and the artist has left the studio and they seem happy and pleased with everything. And, you know, and then the next day someone else came in and we did it with a bunch of different people.
Game on.
Game on. Exactly. And so thank you for really proving that our idea had legs. And I think it gave us the confidence when it did finally shut down 13 songs later that, we managed to get 26 more songs recorded remotely, all over the country. Everybody went above and beyond. And I think a lot of it had to do because we released your single and we put it out there and people could listen to it and look at it and go, so this is what this project is about. And it gave them confidence. And when an artist has confidence, they can kind of do anything. Give them a microphone and a decent engineer, and the artist will come through.
Yeah.
So for me, thank you from Gary and Jim and I for like giving us that beautiful thing to have in our pocket. It really set the tone for the whole project. Now I know you've been working hard. You're back out there on the road. And one of the things we always talk about with Neal was he just loved putting people together. He was very intrigued with the idea of like you and I and Cats, like trying to coalesce something. And everybody pretty much said like, Neal introduced me to so-and-so, and then we did a project together, and I've got a new friend thanks to Neal. What do you think you can carry forward in that idea? Have you met or worked with anyone that you may have met because of Neal? I mean, the idea I'm thinking of is Jonathan Wilson, who just produced your new record, was a longtime friend of Neal's, and also has a song on Highway Butterfly.
Right.
Did you know that before you started working with Jonathan?
I knew that they were homies because no, I guess I didn't know that they were homies until I was in the studio, and I showed up one day in my Neal jacket, and then Jonathan was like, "Holy shit," and he's like, "Turn around," and I, showed him he's like, "Oh, Neely," and then I realized that they were close, and it's like, yeah, he was kind of buddies with everyone,
He really was. I mean, I can't think of anyone that doesn't have the utmost respect for Neal. And Jonathan, of course, recorded everything himself, played everything himself, recorded it himself, and then allowed Jim to mix it, which I thought was really gracious. And he did a fantastic job on your record. I mean, I really thought that was a match made in heaven. I figured you two guys would hit it off.
Yes, sir. I really like working with him too, and just hanging. Jonathan is a super good hang, man, and just having somebody with that kind of vibe in the studio is a vibe. Kind of like
Absolutely.
Having you in the studio is like that, man. Just a big old happy feller to have around, and I like that.
Studios, it should be that way.
Yeah.
It should be welcoming and vibey and happy. And, I just don't think you can make the kind of music we love, with some A&R guy pacing circles in the control room, or someone with a cat o' nine tails flogging, your band. It's like, we're trying to make a vibe here.
Yeah.
Will translate. So you mentioned the jacket. Can you talk a little more about the jacket? I'm pretty sure it's going to show up in the video clip, or maybe we already saw it in the video clip.
It's just, I had two of them made by this guy. His name's Richard Mink, and he does airbrush art. But it's just on the back of a denim jacket. I had him paint this beautiful portrait of Neal. I have one made of Jeff Austin as well.
Oh, wow.
So I kind of can carry those guys with me, and they got my back, on the road,
That's two good guys to have your back for sure.
Man, I miss those guys, man. It really sucks, but there's also a part of me that's understands that they're kind of always with us, no matter what, man. Their music and their memory will remain, and it's just an important thing to carry on.
I absolutely agree. And I mean, without Neal's music, he'd just be gone. I mean, you could get together with another mutual friend and talk about it, but the music keeps him here with us while we still walk around on this earth. This podcast is brought to you by Backline, the music industry's mental health and wellness resource hub. Launched in 2019, Backline gives artists, crews, and their families quick and easy access to mental health and wellness resources. Backline provides individuals with case management and offers virtual support groups as well as yoga, meditation, and breath work. To donate, learn more, or get in touch for personalized care, visit backline.care. That's BACKLINE.CARE. There's one last thing I want to talk to you about before I let you go, because I know you have things to do or dreams to conceive of. Do you remember the day that word got out that Neal had died? Do you remember that you and I were at Vance Powell's studio in Nashville that very day?
Yeah.
Do you remember what we were talking about?
Mental health and, all that. Because I was going through a lot around that time too, man. Which I've gotten a real good kind of hold on it. I'm in a much better spot, but I think around that time, which was probably like 2019 or something.
Yep.
Yeah, so like I was hitting it hard, man, and I had been for the last, it was like 200 gigs a year for like, almost like 10 years, or something, and it just, I was really starting to get burnt out and having these panic attacks and could not kind of stand being on the road and just kind of freaking out, and so yeah, around that time I remember talking a lot about that stuff because like I wear my heart on my sleeve in that way. It's too hard for me to pretend like I'm not mad, sad, hungry, tired, what, like I don't pretend, if I'm like pissed off, you're going to know it, or if I'm sad, or if, but like, so I'm not going to like be all having panic attacks and having really bad anxiety issues and not like talk about it. You know what I mean? Because I don't know. For one thing, I think it's good to talk about because people see me talk about it and they're like, oh shit, well, he deals with the same shit. That's, if anything, makes them feel not alone. You know what I mean?
That's exactly right. I mean, I have had my share of addictions and recoveries, and it's a bumpy road. And yeah, talk about it. 200 gigs a year for like 10 or 15 years takes its toll, and there are things we do. I remember that day because you had just played with us at the Ryman, and it was so much fun, that Ryman Widespread Panic acoustic run. And then we were over at Vance's, and Vance's is such a great hang, and just what a great guy and a great place. And something that you and I were talking about that really struck me was how we get hit up by fans. They feel like they know us well enough to sort of lay their troubles at our doorstep, and because we are sensitive people and we want everyone to be happy, we want to try to help them in any way we can. And you were talking about how it kind of gets exhausting and there's just not enough time to take care of yourself and all these other people.
Yeah,
I get it.
It happens quite a bit, and I think that's maybe one kind of thing that I have to deal with because I talk about my troubles or my past or my anxiety, or because I'm honest with, like you said, I get messages on Instagram and stuff like, like, my brother committed suicide, but your music, helped me through it, or, my son died from a heroin overdose, but, you're really helping me and stuff. And I'm just like, I talked to my therapist about this, and she said some psychologist somewhere said something like one of the most like toughest things in his life was the incredible positive impact he's had on people, because then people just like kind of expect that from him. There are times when I don't have the capacity the mental capacity to help others, because I got to take care of myself, you know, in that moment. And there are times where I can help others, you know, and I want to, but there are times where I have to, you know, set that boundary and realize that I need to take care of myself first and stuff like that. But yeah, I think like being such a positive light and stuff, you know, a bright light can really kind of be hard sometimes, because, you know, people sort of expect you to put out their flames, you know.
That's right. That's
And
right.
you might not have any, you know, water left, you know, to put out the fire with. So
That's water is exactly right. I mean, my wife gave me the expression, I need time to recharge my well. You know, I mean, it's hard enough. It's physically demanding to be on the road, and heck yeah, it's fun. We get to play music for a living, and we're kind of hit the lottery on that one. But at the same time, you're not in your bed. You miss your loved ones. You miss your pets. If you have kids, you miss those, or maybe you don't. I don't have kids, so I don't know. But that in and of itself is exhausting. Um,
yeah.
and then to try to take on everyone else's, whether they're accolades or just to like take in their pain, because what we learn is that talking about it kind of makes a little bit of it go away. It lessens the burden of it. Um, and that's just what the foundation, the Neal Casal Music Foundation, hopes to accomplish, is to help like Music Cares and Backline and Nucci Space and any one of these. If you've got a problem out there on the road, you know, you don't have to deal with it alone. I mean, you know, you can always call me and I'll pick up the phone.
Yeah.
But not a lot of other people know that there are resources and how valuable they are. And, you know,
Well,
it's
there's also too, like, I know that I could always call you, but you know, there might be a time where I get in some headspace where I just feel like I can't, or you know, even if I want to reach out, I just like won't, because I'm too ashamed, or I'm this or that or whatever. But you know, through Backline and stuff like that, I think it's, you know, the awareness, just people being open and talking about it, and kind of, you know, getting rid of that sort of like stigma that I don't know where that even exists from, like super old school, like, you know, oh, just be a man or whatever, you know,
yeah,
like, I don't know, like, I don't know, like I said, I can't pretend that I'm not tough, you know what I mean? Like when it comes to that, like, I'm fragile. I have been broken before, you know, with anxiety and panic attacks and stuff like that. And, you know, there was a time where when I was younger and I was on the road and I was really over functioning. I mean, I was driving the van, I was loading the trailer, I was selling merch after the gig, I was, you know, settling up at the end of the show. I was doing every single thing there was, every job there was to do on the road. That was me. And, and, I was over functioning like a madman, but you know, I was young and I was able to do it for a second. And there were moments where, you know, people that were on the road with me or something were having really bad trouble, you know, like I'm having anxiety, or man, my chest feels tight or whatever. And like back then I used to kind of be like, man, just pull it together, dude. Like, you know, maybe you shouldn't be on the road if you can't handle it, you know, kind of thing. And then when, you know, back in 2019, when all of a sudden 5 o'clock in the morning in the middle of nowhere, I'm hit with my first like real panic attack that I've ever had in my life. I thought I was having a heart attack. You know what I mean? I thought I was like dying, you know, like my hands were tingling and I couldn't breathe. Felt like, you know, somebody was standing on my chest, and I was like, I wanted to call 911, you know, and I went outside and walked in the grass and I kind of calmed myself down a little bit. But like, that's when I realized how shitty I was sort of being to like my bandmates and stuff when they were dealing with that, because I had no idea how bad it actually was, you know. And then I literally was like, dude, I'm so sorry that I didn't like sympathize with you more when you were having panic attacks, like, because I didn't know, you know what I mean? I just was kind of ignorant to the whole thing. Like, oh, what do you mean anxiety? Everybody has anxiety. It's called, you know, life, you know.
right.
You know, but it's a lot different when you're overworked, or you just got too much on your mind, or, you know, like my mind, it just goes and 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 goes, and I just can't settle it down sometimes. And thinking about the future, thinking about the past, you know, And it's like, that's what gets me into trouble, is if I'm not just right here, right now. But yeah, just learn how to get a hold on that. It's been a journey for sure, man. But I tell you what, man, I was talking to Jeff Austin right up until all that too, like, you know, texting back and forth with him about that stuff, because I was going through it pretty bad at that time. And it was like, me and him were both like struggling. And I was like, man, I found this therapist, and, I'm doing this or that, and basically like kind of trying to make him feel like he's not alone either, like, man, I know what you're going through, man. We're road dogging hard, for one thing. You're in the limelight. You got people online talking shit about you every day or whatever, and you see that. And for him, he's just trying to get his shit back together with it, the band and stuff, after kind of, Yonder and that whole separation, and it's just too much, man. That's, and he's with a family and everything. And I was like, it just like really sucked, because it seemed like we were going through like the same thing, but I didn't realize how much more severe what he was going through was, and it goes to show that you can never tell. You know what I mean?
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I mean, very few people saw the depth of the depression and delusion that Neal was going through.
Right.
I think I could scroll back through some texts, and in fact, we were probably talking about Jeff Austin. Scroll back through the texts. They're gone now, because I guess the phone's been shut off, so they've disappeared. I should have recorded them. But, he understood. He understood, and I should have picked up on that, because I don't think you can understand that unless you've been in that space. And you mentioned it earlier about, there's a whole raft of people I could call that would gladly listen to me talk about this, but I'm a little too ashamed to do it. And that's a tough spot. And I don't really know how to like help people get out of it, except just keep hammering home the message that you're not really alone. And maybe we educate and destigmatize so that our friends can see that this is going on. Because I don't know if it's a toxic male patriarchy, a tough guy attitude thing. That crying's for girls. Come on. That's I had, it's like my uncles and my grandfather were like that. Get up, kid. You only broke your femur. Get up.
I was watching like Mad Men or something like that, and I think it was like, like having a therapist with like the T word. You know what I mean? Like, wait, right. He has he sees a therapist? Like, what? What's wrong with them? Like, I mean, like, it's not like that, man. Like, I love my therapist, and I can't believe that I've been actually talking to her for like almost 3 years now, and she's become a really great, like friend, and somebody that I've really, like, for one thing, helped me sort out my in the moment stuff that was kind of just making it hard to be on the road. And then, as we get deeper and deeper, I mean, digging into my childhood trauma and, being surrounded by meth heads when I was a teenager, and, living in a freaking meth house, when I was a little kid, and like, all that stuff, and like sorting through all that, and instead of just like, because it hurts still, to see my little 11, 12-year-old self with no food in the fridge and nowhere to go. No, you know what I mean? Like, but like, I've kind of like come to terms with it in a way through all the therapy and stuff. And like, it's made me a lot stronger, and my relationship with my family has improved greatly and everything. And man, it just really helps to talk about it, and it hurts. You got to go through it to grow through it. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's right.
It's painful, and it's not always fun to talk about stuff like that. And then you have to find somebody that you really trust. Like, I've told my therapist things that I've never told anybody else. You know what I mean? Things that have been deep, deep secrets for me my entire life since I was a little kid that I would never tell anyone. And it's like, the fact that I've gotten comfortable enough with, her to kind of dig deeper, and, like I said, we're talking about stuff that I never thought I would confront. You know what I mean? Stuff that I never thought I would talk about, and talking about it. And it's like, after these sessions and stuff, and after getting into this really deep conversation about that stuff, and you just feel better. You might not feel better immediately, but once you can integrate the conversation you had into your life, it's like, it's a huge relief. I mean, I resented my mother for a long time, man. And that's a really, really shitty feeling.
Yeah.
To be angry at, your mom for doing whatever she did when you were a teenager, and, there were times where, I really kind of resented her, and I didn't know how to handle it, and I can honestly say that that's not even close to how it is anymore. I mean, our relationship is great. You know what I mean? Like, I love her to death. She's my mom, and we talked about stuff, and like all the things that were unsaid, we talked about, and like things are better now, and it's just,
it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, I resented my parents for getting divorced, and then I resented that resentment in myself. So I just wound up looking in the mirror every day and going, "You're just a terrible person."
Oh, that's the worst. I'll in therapy and stuff, I'll be like that, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, well, why do you say that?" "Oh, well, because I'm a piece of shit," or whatever. Well, hold on, wait. And I'm just kidding, kind of just joking. Yeah, I'm a piece of shit. Well, why'd you just say that about yourself? Oh, well, I was just kind of kidding. But why'd you say it?
Yeah, they'll pin your ass to the wall.
I guess because, I don't know, why did I say that? Do I really think I'm a piece of shit? What's going on here? How come I'm not being kind to myself, man? What the fuck? I'm kind to other people, like, and I started realizing that, like, man, you gotta be nice to yourself, man. Like, you can't always be so hard on yourself, even about the music and stuff. Like, lately I've been, I gave myself a little pat on the back when I won a Grammy. You know what I mean? Like, good job, kid. Good fucking job, brother. You're doing all right, kid. And that's important, I think.
It's really important.
Yeah.
Because you can get all the congratulation notes from all of your peers.
Right.
I mean, that's a peer award anyway. It's like, wow, there's no higher honor. The same people in my profession think I deserve this.
Everybody's always told me that, you're great or whatever, but I've never thought it.
I hear you. And
I've always thought that, you know what I mean? I don't know. I've never thought so. So basically, that was like kind of a validating moment for myself. Like, maybe I don't suck. You know what else was? When you guys had me out at the Ryman, you know what I mean? Like, that really, I meant to say that earlier when you brought that up. During that time, I was struggling a lot with, like I said, anxiety and stuff, and just self-doubt. And am I going to be able to do this? I mean, the music is just, I don't know. But then all of a sudden, Widespread Panic invites you to come sit in with them. And it's like, damn, like, that just makes you feel really good. You know what I mean? Like, and not to mention, you have a great time hanging and just picking and, bullshitting backstage and stuff. It was just really, like, I needed that at that time.
I think we did too.
Yeah.
We did too. And that really, that sort of got us from beyond like the texting relationship to, oh, we can hang together, and we can make music together. Oh, and we can share about things that bug us or thrill us, and to me, that it was music that started it. It was music that cemented it. And in a lot of ways it was Neal that brought us together, because there you were down in front of the Acme in Nashville watching hardworking Americans. And
Totally.
To me, that's what we do. We bring people together, and I appreciate the fact that Neal in some way brought us together and enabled us to work together on the Highway Butterfly project, and all the luck in the world. I truly love you. You did deserve that Grammy. You're doing okay. and you're catching some pretty nice fish, and you made a great new record. So
Yeah.
I love you, Billy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, man. I love you too, brother.
And good luck. You got a gig in Burlington. Is that tonight or tomorrow?
Tomorrow night. Tonight we're just chilling, watching Forensic Files. So.
Okay, well, great. Well, I'll let you get back to it. Thanks for joining us. Grammy-winning Billy Strings, everyone.
All right.
Thanks for listening to Highway Butterfly, the stories of Neal Casal. Tune in next week to hear more from the artists who made this tribute album a reality. Highway Butterfly, the songs of Neal Casal is out on November 12th. All album net proceeds go to the Neal Casal Music Foundation. You can pre-order the album and learn more at nealcasalmusicfoundation.org.